And welcome everyone to the Armed Forces Insurance Military Spouse of the Year show, where we get to talk with our MSOYs and our alumni and find out what it is that they're doing in their communities. I'm your host, Megan Harless, and joining us today is Julie. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Can you just take a brief minute and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am Julie Eshelman. And I am an Army Reserve spouse. My husband's actually AGR, so we kind of live in this, in our own little world where we're active duty, but reserves at the same time. And so it's kind of fun.
No, we absolutely love our Guard and Reserves families as well. So what is your MSOY title?
So I actually have two. I am the 2019 Armed Forces Insurance Unattached Army Spouse of the Year and the 2022 Armed Forces Insurance Fort Leavenworth Spouse of the Year.
Well, congratulations on those titles and having 2 years under your belt. So tell us a little bit, what were you nominated for?
So in 2019, I was nominated for the work that I did for my husband's unit through our FRG, which is now the SFRG, because we didn't have anything and our unit was deploying. And so we went from nothing to a robust and very active group in a matter of months, serving our families from Hawaii all the way to New York, and serving our Spanish-speaking families that had never really had any contact with any military support system.
Now, I love hearing your story about how you worked really hard to get the Guard and Reserve families included in a lot of things and working on changing language, because a lot of times we hear, active duty families get this and get that and get to be a part of that. And you really work to make it so it's not just active duty families, but it's those actively serving. So it includes our Guard and Reserve families.
Yeah, I mean, the language that organizations and even, our community uses really does matter, because when my husband's unit was deployed back in 2018 to 2019, there were events and organizations that told us, oh, it's for active duty or you have to be activated, and we're like, well, our spouses are deployed, and they're like, oh, reserves don't deploy, and and things like that, and having things and using that language, currently serving or actively serving or just military. When you mean anybody that's got a military connection, there's no need to qualify it with active duty, because then that leaves out, almost half of our military force is made up of Guard and Reserves. And so not including them, it hurts. I'll be honest, it hurts.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. So just thank you for the work that you've done there. And as we know, sometimes that our positions and our passions and our advocacy paths can change depending on life and what is happening. So tell us about what it is that you're working on now.
So after winning in 2019, my husband and I at that time were just starting to really try and figure out why we weren't able to build our family. And so getting an infertility diagnosis and really going through all of that really kind of propelled me into what I got nominated for in 2022, which was my infertility awareness and the advocacy that I do with another national nonprofit, Resolve, the National Infertility Association, with their advocacy day. And so that has really empowered me to not only share my story and to advocate for health insurance coverage for things like fertility treatments, to also empowering the rest of our military community to also use their voice and break that stigma, because a lot of people are embarrassed that they're going through infertility, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's way more common than you will ever realize. And it can really help some other people.
Yeah, I know that talking about how common it is something that me and my husband at one point were struggling getting pregnant with our daughter. And so we were actually on playing that game with TRICARE of waiting for the referral to go through to see a specialist to see what was going on when we found out we were expecting her. But knowing that there's so many families in our community that have that issue of being able to build and expand their families, to walk us through a little bit more about how you really got started in this journey, on this path, and really got you going and saying, hey, this is where I need to spend my time doing more advocacy on.
Definitely. I mean, and I'll be honest, the first year or two, we didn't tell anybody that we were struggling, and we just kind of suffered in silence, and we were ashamed of it. And then at a point, we had already experienced our first miscarriage while we were PCSing, and we had undergone a second round of IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, which is the cheapest of fertility treatments that you can do, since, it's not covered by TRICARE. We were pregnant. We had made it to 7.5 weeks. We graduated from the fertility clinic. And then at our first OB appointment, there was no heartbeat anymore. And so we had been diagnosed with a missed miscarriage, and I ended up needing surgery. And at that point, we had to kind of come out, because we had to tell our family that I was having surgery. And that was kind of what started it all. I started sharing, and more people reached out and were like, oh, I've been through miscarriages, and, oh, I've dealt with, infertility. And it really started kind of like it was like a snowball effect. I just kept going and getting involved. And then COVID happened, and that shut down everything, including preventing us from moving forward with fertility treatments. And I don't know even how I saw it or where I saw it. I know it was on social media, but I saw a post about Resolve's Federal Advocacy Day being moved from taking place in DC to being virtual because of COVID and the pandemic, and that I could attend. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that from home. I don't have to travel to DC. And I was basically hooked. And, I joined them in that day of advocacy and talking to senators and representatives in the state we were living in. And I got involved right away, because I was like, hey, you guys put me in Illinois, but I don't vote in Illinois. I vote in Arizona. I'm military. And so I've been working with Resolve ever since. And they created a military and veterans task force as part of their planning committee for their Federal Advocacy Day. And we're in our second year of utilizing that committee to help recruit for our military and veteran community so that they have a voice on Advocacy Day. And it's really cool, because I get to work alongside other military and veteran advocates, but also other professional advocates and other patient advocates all across the country. And some of my really good friends are, I've met from my involvement in this organization, and it's helped me accept, kind of what's happened to us. And I use it as kind of an outlet for my frustrations. I'm frustrated currently with TRICARE and the referral process, and because we're stationed really remotely right now, and any referral I need, it's like there's nobody. And it's just very frustrating. And so I can turn that into advocacy, and I can make a difference for the next generation of our military families that are struggling, so they don't have to struggle and give up the things my husband and I have given up so that we can grow our family. Because it's
No, it's very, very difficult when you start having some sort of issue and you don't know what to do about it or how to handle it. As you said, suffer in silence, because it is sometimes embarrassing. Like, why is something wrong with me? But as you said, once you talked about it, once you brought it out, just hearing the number of other stories and folks and people that have had similar issues or going through the same thing, it can be real eye-opening of realizing, like, I'm not the only one. We're not the only family here that's going through this, and being able to support support each other. And Resolve, the group that you work with, you guys now also have a, I believe I saw it recently on social media, like a military specific infertility support group that you guys run as
Yes.
well.
It's something that I've seen the need for it. And nobody else was stepping up to start it. And I was like, well, our community needs this. Somebody needs to step up and provide a safe place for people to be able to come and talk about those feelings. Because I know and I understand that not everybody is ready to talk about it publicly. And some people, need to find a group where they know they can talk and not have things said to them that are hurtful or harmful, because there are a lot of things that people say with good intentions when people are struggling to build their family, when they're actually some of the worst things you could say. And that's nothing, I'm not trying to, blame anybody or say somebody's, saying the wrong things, but sometimes it's better if you're not sure what to say to just not say anything. Because saying
it's like when you're a new mom and everyone says, oh, you should sleep when the baby sleeps, or oh, you should get more rest. It's like, thank you, I have a newborn. Exactly when am I supposed to get this more rest?
Because telling somebody to relax, it'll happen when it's going to happen. It's I know it comes from a well-meaning place, but it's actually hurtful and harmful. And if you guys want to know more about that, you can Google what not to say to somebody facing infertility. And there are a slew of articles that will come up. And the number one thing that we've heard since we started our new peer-led support group through Resolve for our military connected community is that I've been waiting for a space like this. And so we're so glad that we were able to create that. And, spreading the word. And, we want to reach out to the rest of our community and start normalizing those conversations, because, it affects our mental health. It affects our jobs. It affects so many areas of our lives that, having that space and knowing that other organizations and that other people support that and are like, hey, let's normalize this. Let's share this. Let's do all of that is so helpful for those, because the Blue Star Family Survey data shows that 67% of our military connected families are struggling to build their families. And so that's a big portion of our community. And, just doing my part to show that 67% that, hey, there's somebody here that gets it.
Yeah. And I think having a group like that that's centered toward our military community, we get what military life is like. We get the deployments, the PCSing, the rotations, in the field. And when you go through your fertility treatment, if your service member has to go somewhere or do something, who's going to be there to support you? Who's going to be there to help you through whatever it is that you need to go through? And so having that support group of people that just get our life and understand it, I think goes a long way of just trying to help support those trying to, build their family through this way. With that, how has our AFI MSOY community supported you in doing the amazing work that you're doing?
In all honesty, seeing, the first year that I, was welcome into this community, seeing all of the incredible things that the community was doing and how welcoming and encouraging they are, was the biggest thing that kind of gave me that voice and gave me that confidence to even start sharing, my truth and what I was going through. And at one point, the Reserve and National Guard magazine, reached out about featuring us, because of our journey and because of our story and how vocal I was about it on social media. And, my husband had people in the office that saw the article that came up and would start talking to him about it. And I had people that reached out, after seeing that. And it's, and if it weren't for this MSOY community, I don't know that article would even be out there, let alone, the countless number of families that we potentially impacted with that. just by giving soldiers a place to be able to talk about that and vocalize that and know that they could go talk to my husband about that was, I think, one of the most impactful things that has really come out of this for us. It's great to see so many people empowered in sharing their stories. And it's just incredible for me to think back that I don't know that any of this would be happening right now if it weren't for this community and the strength that I got from this community.
No, I absolutely love hearing that about how our community, we're really great at coming together and rallying around each other and supporting each other. And so just hearing you emphasize that again. We know there are many spouses out there in their communities that are trying to do good things, that are working through making impacts in their communities. What advice would you give to another spouse who is trying to make some changes in their community where they're stationed at?
I would just suggest reaching out into your community and finding out who else is working on that. Because that has been one of the most powerful things for me, is connecting with other advocates within our MSOY community that are passionate about family building challenges. I wouldn't be where I am without bringing them along with me, because we're much stronger and we're much louder when we link arms than when we try to go it alone. And you can find some of the most encouraging and supportive people in your networks, whether that's, at your local, in your local civilian community, in your local military community, wherever you are, there's somebody fighting for the same or similar things that you can link arms with, because 2, 3, 4, 5, 100 voices are much louder than just one. And that's all it takes is, you get that snowball rolling and you can be unstoppable.
Yes, no, absolutely. Just the power, the strength in numbers, as they say, when you are able to find other spouses and work together for the same common goal. That is such good advice to end today on. Julie, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and everybody else watching, thank you so much for taking time out of your days to join us as well. Join us next time as we hear from one of our other MSOYs. And until then, remember, take care of each other.